Now we're going to do a few examples with these new functions. And starts off pretty easy. A lot of this is going to be calculator based, so you want to have a scientific calculator or graphing calculator available. We're going to start with A, which is just the tangent of 203 degrees. It's very basic. So first thing you're going to do is navigate to your graphing calculator and find the trig key or the tangent function on your calculator. It's just tan. And you also want to make sure your calculator is in degree mode because we're working in degrees for, these two examples are going to be in degrees, whereas the other two examples here, these are in radians. So when you're in a situation, you're going to, go to your tangent feature. I'm going to use Desmos real quick to kind of walk you through it. So it's the tangent of 203 degrees. So if I'm doing this, I'm going to hit the tangent key, tan, and then I'm going to, type in 203. And hit enter. I can see that right here in this setting, it's in degrees for me. So I hit enter, and then there's my tangent of 203 degree value. It's what is that? 42447. So we want to round this to 4 decimal places right now. So this would be 0.4245, and that's the tangent of 203 degrees. What was it? I already forget what it was. 4245. So we have 0.4245. Now, when we get into the other functions, cotangent, cosecant, secant, and whatnot, those actually are not available in your graphing calculator or scientific calculator. They don't make them that way. These are what we call the reciprocal functions. So there's a few ways to do it. First, I'm going to walk you through the basic way, right? So cotangent, what you have to remember is that the cotangent is the reciprocal of the tangent function, which was 1 over tangent in the earlier notes. So this is, one way to look at it, right? So tangent, excuse me, I should write cotangent. So cotangent of an angle is equivalent to 1 divided by tangent of that angle. So this is a for sure way to get through it. So what you would do is you would just divide the number 1 by the tangent of the angle. And when you do it, you want to enter it, in your calculator, 1 divide tangent, and then of 165 degrees here. You're not dividing 1 by the angle measure. Be careful. You're dividing the number 1 by the group value of tangent of 165 there. So again, on the calculator, this is how it works. So for this one, I would do 1 divide, and then tangent of 165 degrees, and that produces a negative 3.732. Negative 3.732 there. So it's going to give me approximately negative 3.732. I think I missed a decimal point there. Go back and double check. I messed up something here. There we go. Negative 3.732. So that would round to 1. Negative 3.7321. This is the official answer there. Now, alternatively, now we got through that, there are some functions on your scientific calculator that you can use. It really just depends on the calculator, but we can use these 2 features. Your calculator is going to have 1 of them. They're the reciprocal functions on your calculator. So just to give you a sense of where that would show up, I have 2 common graphing calculators or scientific calculators here. The first one on the left, the reciprocal key on this one is right here. It's this button right there, x to the negative first. That's the reciprocal key. And what you can do is you can just take the tangent of 165 and then you'd hit that button and that'll do the calculation for you. It'll be, it's the same as the calculation that I just did on the same example. Now, if you're working with this calculator here, this calculator does not have the x to the negative first key in it. It is, where is this button? It's right here. So if you're working with this calculator, it's the 1 over x. So you would have to hit the shift key and then the times 10 to the nth power, and that'll bring up the reciprocal function for your calculator. So again, with this calculator here, you would hit tan of 165, and then you would hit second, and then this key here, and that'll also produce the same value for you. Again, make sure you're in degrees while you're doing this. I want to point out why both of these are on the screen, that if you're working with this calculator here on the right, the trig functions, tangents, cosine, and sine, are not available on your screen. You probably figured that out already. So you'd have to select the trig menu right there first, and then you can select the sine, cosine, or tangent buttons. Now, when you're in both calculators, if you use the trig menu here, or if you're looking over on this calculator right here, you know, the dark blue calculator has sine, cosine, and tangent right on it. And then there are these three functions up here that are, you know, part of the shift key. Sine to the negative first, cosine to the negative first, tangent to the negative first. It's really important you understand that. Those three functions, sine to the negative first, cosine to the negative first, tangent to the negative first, those are not reciprocal functions. Those are called inverse functions, and that's not what we're doing right now. So you want to completely avoid using those keys until I introduce them to you. So if you're looking at the notes again, that's exactly what this is saying right here. Do not use this. That will not give you the correct answer. So just completely avoid that at all costs there. Now, for the last two examples here, we're in radians. So you're going to have to switch your calculator for this to do work in radians. And if you remember, cosecant of theta is equivalent to 1 over sine of theta, and then secant of theta here is equivalent to 1 over cosine theta. Right? So those are the two reciprocal concepts at that point. So if I wanted to calculate the cosecant of -1, then what I would do is I would divide 1 by the sine of -1 radians here. Alternatively, you could just type in sine of -1 and hit either one of these functions on your calculator and get the same answer. And then if you're dealing with part D here for secant 11, you would do cosine, 1 divided by cosine of 11 radians right there. So just to give you a sense of what that looks like. So the first one we were doing was cosecant of, I think it was -2. So that's not a feature for me right here, and we're in radians, so I need to switch my calculator over to radians. So I could do 1 divide and then sine, I think it was -2. Just pretend it's -2 right now. Radians there, and then there's my answer, -1.0997. And then for the next one, it was the secant of 11. So that would be 1 divided by cosine of 11 radians. And that's going to give me 225 and again, go to 4 decimal places, 953, and then I would round to 1 there. So that's kind of how we're working with these two. If you're trying to do this in your calculator, I just realized this one was -1. My last slide, I did -2. But if you're working with your calculator here and you're trying to do the reciprocal key in terms of like keystrokes, for this example here, what I would do is you could do this as an option. So that would be the cosecant of -1 here. So keystrokes in the calculator, what you would have to do first is get your sine up. So sine of -1, right? And then what you can do is then you'd hit that reciprocal key, which is going to bring up to the -1st power right there. So this is going to produce the exact same answer as that will. And over here, you know, you can do the same thing with the cosine of 11, and then you'd have to take the reciprocal to the negative first there. Really just depends your calculator settings. Either this is going to be on your calculator or that is going to be on your calculator. But if all else fails, you can always just kind of work on it and divide 1 by that value, and it'll get you to your answer.